Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled among towering mountains and sprawling meadows, lived a boy named Thomas. He was known for his bright eyes and contagious laughter, but behind his cheerful face, he carried the weight of several problems that seemed to overshadow his days. In the modest cottage where Thomas lived with his parents, life was far from easy. His father, Mr. Thompson, worked long hours as a carpenter, struggling to make ends meet. His mother, Mrs. Thompson, worked as a seamstress, but her earnings were barely enough to cover the family's basic needs. Every morning, Thomas woke to the sound of his parents' hushed conversations. They spoke in worried tones about unpaid bills, dwindling food supplies, and the uncertainty of the future. Despite his own worries, Thomas had a kind heart. One day, he noticed Peter, a boy who wore thick glasses and walked with a slight limp. Peter was an easy target for bullies. Thomas's heart sank as he watched Peter's shoulders slump in defeat. Determined to help, Thomas approached the bullies and stood up for him, telling them to leave Peter alone. He then offered to walk to school with Peter every day. Grateful for the support, Peter smiled through his tears and accepted Thomas's offer. As they walked together, Peter shared his struggles, how he couldn't see the blackboard clearly and how other kids mocked him for it. Thomas listened with empathy, realizing that everyone was fighting their own battles. At school, Thomas faced challenges of his own. He was a diligent student, but it was hard to concentrate when his mind was filled with worries about his family's financial situation. Math, in particular, frustrated him. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't seem to grasp it. After school, Thomas stayed behind to ask his teacher, Miss Adams, for help. He confessed his struggles and his fear of falling behind. Miss Adams smiled warmly and assured him that it was okay to ask for help. Together, they worked through the problem step by step. With her guidance and his determination, Thomas began staying after school regularly, slowly improving and gaining confidence. Yet, the worry in his heart never faded. His family's financial troubles were getting worse, and he could see the toll it was taking on his parents. One evening, Thomas overheard them speaking in hushed tones about mounting debts, overdue rent, and the looming threat of eviction. Tears welled in his eyes as he realized how serious their situation was. Determined to make a difference, Thomas began taking on odd jobs around the village, mowing lawns, washing dishes, and running errands for neighbors. Every penny he earned went toward helping his parents, but it never seemed to be enough. One day, while walking home from school, Thomas stumbled upon a flyer advertising a local talent show. The grand prize was a substantial sum of money, enough to pay off his family's debts and secure their future. Excited, Thomas rushed home to share the news. At first, his parents hesitated. They feared Thomas would be disappointed if he didn't win. But Thomas reassured them. He told them he had a plan and that he wouldn't give up without a fight. With his parents' reluctant support, Thomas threw himself into preparation. He practiced his guitar every spare moment, honing his skills and perfecting his performance. The night of the talent show arrived, and the village hall buzzed with excitement. Thomas took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage, his heart pounding. As he strummed the first chords of his song, he poured his heart and soul into the music, channeling all his hope, pain, and determination. The audience fell silent as Thomas's voice filled the room, raw with emotion. When he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. The applause was thunderous. In the end, Thomas didn't win the grand prize, but he won something far more valuable: the admiration and support of his community. Moved by his courage and resilience, the villagers came together to raise money for his family, ensuring they had a roof over their heads and food on the table. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Thomas hugged his parents tightly, tears of joy streaming down his face. In that moment, he realized that with love, determination, and the support of those who care, even the hardest struggles can be overcome. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Thomas's family faced new challenges, but they faced them together, stronger than ever. And Thomas knew that no matter what obstacles life placed in his path, he would always find a way to rise above them, with a song in his heart and a smile on his face.